Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today we're going to be talking about one of those things that we absolutely have to have and have to understand to be successful in life. And that's money, wealth, all of these various terms. And we're going to talk about the differences between how men think and how women think, because it is different and each has their own views on it. And it's going to be such a fascinating discussion today. So please join me in welcoming Kathryn Eriksen to our program today. Welcome, Kathryn.
Hi, Deb. It's so great to be here.
Great. Well, let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will dive into this. So from stressed out attorney to best-selling author, from victim to victor, from money angst to empowered wealth, Kathryn Eriksen is the women's spiritual money coach. Through her online classes to her empowered money map courses, Kathryn helps women raise their awareness about fearful scarcity and teaches how to create a peaceful relationship with money and wealth. A certified meditation and mindfulness teacher, Kathryn infuses spiritual truths in her speaking, writing, and teaching. Her latest book, The Money Tree, Transforms Scarcity Thinking to Empowered Wealth Consciousness, is a spiritual parable designed as a lesson plan for anyone with a troubled relationship with money. And let's be real, that's all of us, right? Please join us as we talk about how we can help women raise their wealth consciousness, heal their money wounds, and transform the world. So again, Kathryn, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Deb. This is going to be so much fun. I love your energy.
It is. We are going to have so much fun. And it's funny, we were chatting before the program. When we moved here from Denver, I had someone, who was listening to my program here in Atlanta, and he said, I love what you talk about, but darling, y'all gotta slow down. But, that is part of this whole discussion is our energy and what we bring to the process of thinking about money and wealth and abundance and all of those things. So, one of the things that I always like to start with is finding out more about my guests. So tell us how it is that you went from being that stressed out attorney to where you are now and how you discovered that this truly is your passion in life.
Yes, thank you. Well, as you can guess, it's a journey. It didn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
So the short version is that I went to law school because my father was a lawyer and I have a twin brother. And he also went to law school. And I was at a crossroads and decided, yeah, okay, why not?
Family legacy. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's great. But then you're in the middle of it going, why did I do this again? But I graduated, passed the bar, yay, started practicing, and I enjoyed it, but it never felt natural. It never fulfilled me. I mean, I enjoyed meeting my clients and helping them with their problems, but there was always something missing. And it wasn't until I hit the wall of infertility that I really took a step back and looked at my life. And I realized a lot of the stress of being a litigator probably contributed to that. And it was just one of those moments when you hit in your late 30s that you just, okay, I have to change. I have to do something different. And through that process of looking inward and really discovering who I was, that's how I kind of came to be where I am right now. Fast forward so many years.
I love it. And, it is, we've all had those journeys. And I love that you actually went, we need to change, because so many times we don't. And, I don't care if it's men or women, we just keep plodding along for so many reasons. It's like they say, we're not going to, it's not going to say on our tombstones, I wish I'd worked longer.
Right.
Maybe for one or two, but yeah, it is about having that abundance in your life, having that joy. And of course, a big portion of that is coming to terms with money and what it means to you. And so I love that that's what you talk about.
Right. And I thank you, Deb. So I have a quick story to share.
Mm-hmm.
When you're at those crossroads,
Mm-hmm.
and you know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everyone's been through that.
Right.
When you just say, what am I doing? Is this
Mm-hmm.
what I want to continue doing with my life and with my time and
Mm-hmm.
energy? And for me, that infertility journey was the wall,
Mm-hmm.
was what I had to dissolve,
Mm-hmm.
basically, and it was when I became clear on what I really wanted,
Mm-hmm.
that I moved through that wall. And it happened in a funny way. We were living in a small town. Some neighbors of ours decided to buy motorcycles. And I had ridden dirt bikes when I was a kid. I grew up as a tomboy. So
And
that
you
was
had a twin brother. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That was very natural for me. So we bought a Harley.
Oh,
started-
boy, when you dove in.
Yes. And so this group of people we got to know that we used to ride with, we want to go to Sturgis. Come on, let's go. And,
Mm-hmm.
My husband is also an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
He put me through law school, and then I put him through law school. So that was 6 years of a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. But a good partnership to be able to do
But
that.
a great partnership. And I always say he got it easy because he went to the same law school, had similar professors, and had my outline.
He had some notes there. We won't say tests or anything like that. No.
Right. But anyway, getting back to the Harley story. So we decided, okay, we'll go to Sturgis.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, the trip started the day after I learned that the last IVF treatment didn't work.
Mm.
So the timing couldn't have been better because I had to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
There's a grieving process of letting that go.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to decide, well, what do I want?
Mm-hmm.
What is it I'm really striving for?
Mm-hmm.
And I found that clarity sitting on the back of that motorcycle, going through West Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And this was before Bluetooth. I couldn't talk to him except yell in his ear as we were going.
It was all in your
highway.
head. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it was sitting on the back of that motorcycle, going over everything, that I came to my clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, I realized I didn't want to be pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
What I really wanted was to be a mom.
Mm.
And that totally changed everything.
Right.
And so at the next rest stop, I told him that. And he's like, well, why don't we just adopt?
Yeah. Hello.
Hello. I mean, and it just became like, yes, okay, that's it. So we came back from that trip, investigated some different agencies, and lo and behold, less than 9 months later, I'm holding my daughter in my arms, 2 days old.
Oh my.
And the reason why I tell that story is because I realized I was trying to control the outcome through the science, through the infertility, through this, through that. And it wasn't until I opened up and said, please come in, to God, higher power, whatever you want to call it. Please come in and I'll let you take over. That my life just totally changed in a radical way.
Right.
And I started seeing, besides the adoption and of course becoming a mom, I started to see all the other parts of my life that I was trying to control. And I realized, especially with money, that we don't control money. Money's just a tool. It's an energy. And it responds to who we are. So if we're controlling, if we're grasping, if we're saying, money, do this, do that, commanding, it's not going to work.
Right.
Especially for women. And so that's when I started really looking into that and studying energy and studying different aspects of who we are with money. And that's really what led me here today.
Right. And women tend to think more with our hearts and men think with their heads. That's why it's a good partnership. But the problem is a lot of times, many times, we as women think we can't do that. We have to be thinking with our heads. We have to be planning ahead. We have to be doing all of this stuff. And that's not to say we shouldn't be doing that. I mean, we should be investing. We should be doing those things, but we do it for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And that's a good segue into this next topic, which is I looked around and realized that the financial system that we exist and operate in today, and I'm talking about the Western world,
right?
It was built by men.
Correct. Yes.
And it shows their strengths. Men are much more, and again, these are general comments. And I'm not bashing men and upholding women. What I want everyone to hear when I speak is that we need both energies. Right.
Even if it's just we need to be thinking both ways.
Yes. And so money has both sides. It has yin and yang. It has masculine and feminine energy. But this financial system we're in, to budget and to structure and to, not spend except when, all that that's more masculine in nature. And women tend to forget or ignore or dismiss when they have a more intuitive hit, when they feel or know inside that particular money move is the best for them, but they can't support it with data.
Right.
They can't give an objective
just saying,
reason.
well, I like that company. Your financial advisor or whoever is going to go, yeah, sure.
Right. So that's what I want women to hear and to know and to trust that there is value in the intuitive hit. There is value in being aware of the nuances that perhaps men don't pick up on.
Right.
Because that's what we're good at. That's what women are good at.
Right. Yeah. Investing would be a great example. A man is going to look at the bottom line, what, the P&Ls, what their history has been, all of those various things. And a woman is going to go, yeah, but they're thinking about the environment. They're hiring a diverse workforce and they've got a diverse board, all of these various things, which when you combine those two really does make for a successful company.
Yes, exactly. And so I know when I was practicing law, especially at the time I was doing it, I was usually the only woman in the room, and especially in litigation, because it's just very stressful.
Right.
And there's a lot of factors you can't control.
There's a lot of testosterone that goes on in those meetings. I mean, we've all seen the TV programs, right?
Well, of course, television isn't real life, but
and the testosterone level is, obviously elevated for the drama factor. But yeah,
right. You're right. And you learn to deal with that. And law is not the only profession where that's true for women. The corporate world, a lot of times for women, you feel that same way. And I can't tell you how many meetings I sat in where I would suggest something but couldn't hold it up, couldn't support it. And the men are like, oh, well.
Yeah,
we need
honey.
to look at this instead. Yeah. And it's not, it's easy to take that as a personal affront or an insult, but it really comes down to the way men and women process information.
Right.
And so I kind of have studied that. I'm not an expert on it, but men tend to look at the systems, at the processes. They tend to look at A to B to C to D. Okay. And women have a much broader context and connect things perhaps from a past project that has a relationship to the current one, but in a different way.
Right.
So there's a woman that I've been reading. Her name is Barbara Annis, Annis, and she wrote a book called Same Words, Different Language. And so she studied how men and women operate and how they speak differently and how they hear differently. And one quick example that she uses in the book is that she'll ask men in the audience, okay, when you enter a room about to join a meeting, what's the first thing you do? And a lot of the men would say, well, I'll just sit down and take the empty chair.
Find the open seat.
That's the process. For women, when they're asked that same question, they say they notice the facial expressions, they kind of test the energy in the room, They notice the body posture,
Mhm.
body language.
Does that person want me to sit next to them?
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And women's brains, they've shown this through MRIs and all kinds of
Mhm.
sophisticated testing. Women's brains are constantly making those kinds of
Mhm.
connections.
Right.
Men are more in the left side, left
Mhm.
analytical, logical, or the right side, which is more
Mhm.
spatial awareness and
Mhm.
context. They're either one or the other.
Mhm.
Women are zooming back and forth in between both.
Right.
And so when a woman brings that awareness
Mhm.
and speaks up at a meeting to a bunch of men, they're not going to hear it.
Right. Yeah, because it's almost like it's a foreign language to them.
Exactly. Exactly. So knowing that you can couch your words in
Mhm.
more systematic processed
Mhm.
ways, even though the woman has already figured out,
Mhm.
okay, this is what's really going on.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Right.
to me, that's an important point. And
Mhm.
it also comes back to money.
Mhm.
The same thing. Investing. You just
Mhm.
brought that up. Another thing would be if for an entrepreneur, female entrepreneur, it, if she's stuck in her money shadows,
Mhm.
okay, in the belief that she doesn't know what she's doing, or she made a mistake in the past,
Mhm.
she may not make an investment in her company that
Mhm.
she really needs to, and she knows she needs to,
Mhm.
but she talks herself out of it.
Right.
So there's all kinds of nuances with this.
Mhm.
And my mission is to help women
Mhm.
raise that awareness,
Mhm.
raise that wealth consciousness, so they trust
Mhm.
themselves and then move forward.
Right. Right. Yeah, as you said, we pass up so many opportunities because that little voice in our head says, "No, you shouldn't do that." And it really is such a limiting factor, and we see that all the time with people. Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And of course, we're all the real good armchair quarterbacks, and especially Monday morning, we can look back at it and go, "Oh yeah," but it really is, in many ways we were brought up almost to doubt ourselves as
Yes.
women.
Yes.
And it's not, certainly it's not anything deliberate. And we've talked about this on the program before, where we might be told, is that really what you want to study? Girls don't study science. And it's not that teacher was wanting to harm that young girl. She was wanting to protect her. But yeah, I mean, those, and then of course that little voice got stuck in there, 7 years old, and continues. And same thing with parents. Do you really want to go out for the football team? And all of those various things. It's a natural thing for people to want to protect, but what they're doing in the long run is harming.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I saw that firsthand. My parents, oh, bless their hearts. We were the youngest. I had older brothers. There was a lot
Oh
going
no,
on.
were you the only girl?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my.
Oh, yeah. And, so, I mean, that was fine. We kind of kept ourselves entertained.
Mhm.
But as we grew older, there were different sets of standards
Right.
for him than there were for me.
Mhm.
And looking back, and this is said with pure love,
Mhm.
it's just the way it was.
Right.
That was their paradigm. That
Mhm.
was how they believed they should raise their
Mhm.
children. But he was encouraged to do things.
Right.
He was encouraged to, be active. And I was encouraged to read and play with,
Play
my
with your
dolls.
dolls.
And look good.
Mhm.
Looking good was a big
Don't
thing.
get sweaty. Don't get dirty.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, and that's fine, because I did both.
Mhm.
I
Right.
didn't-
Yeah.
I didn't let that stop me.
Mhm.
But it's interesting, the whole male versus female
Mhm.
paradigm and energies. But
Mhm.
now that I'm an adult, now that you're an adult,
Mhm.
you can look at it and say, okay, I don't want to be that anymore.
Right. Mhm.
Right. And for me, my biggest revelation was that I can be creative.
Mhm.
I can say these things that I'm
Mhm.
telling you now and share these ideas. And it's great.
Mhm.
It's outside that very classic traditional paradigm,
Mhm.
but so what?
Mhm. Right. Yeah.
And
No, and-
I can
and-
write books.
Right.
And
You can do all those things that good little girls don't.
right. And the whole pleasing, girls are
Mhm.
raised to be pleasers.
Mhm. Right.
And to be nurturers and to be helpers. And,
Mhm.
all that's fine, but
Mhm.
we have so much more to offer.
Mhm. Right. Yeah. And it's interesting to see now how millennial women are, because they are so different. Every time I turn around, people go, ew, millennials. I'm sorry. First of all, you raised them, but in so many ways, each generation wants to better the next one. And so I think what our generation as baby boomers learned was, we had to empower our little girls, and at the same point, encourage little boys on their feminine tendencies, because as we said, it's this combination of those thinking methodologies that really is what's going to help us be successful.
Yes, exactly. And I'm with you. I love millennials. I'm fascinated by them.
Oh my gosh, I have interviewed some of the coolest ones, and they're probably, some of them are what's after that, Y, Z, X, whatever they are,
Right.
who
Right.
are incredibly successful and aren't old enough to drink. Like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's amazing. So for me, there's a lot of hope.
Right.
In these, next generations. But what I've discovered, especially with millennial women, is they don't know how to be with money.
Right.
And I've had several.
Because they didn't have someone able to teach them.
Yeah. But they're open and they're receptive and they're searching for that. I've had several millennial clients who just, they're like a sponge. They just absorb what I teach or what I've written, because they've been searching for that. They've been searching for that kind of inner urge to satisfy and to become more, not in the way the world says, but in the way it feels good to them.
Right.
And that's true with money.
Right. And it is interesting how they think differently. I'm not sure. I think she is a millennial, but Mackenzie Scott, who is the ex-wife of Jeff Bezos, she got gazillions of dollars, billions, and immediately started giving it away. And of course, all the men went, she could give away 90% of her fortune and still live incredibly comfortably the rest of her life. But she did have that different mindset, this money is great, but let's see how we can use it to help others.
Well, and there have been studies that show that once women become wealthy in their traditional sense, they give it away.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I want to help women become wealthy. And we'll talk about the concept of wealth in just a minute. But as women become wealthy, we can heal the world because we use money in a different way than men do.
Right. Right. And we do want to make sure that we're taken care of. I mean, we love Mother Teresa, but we're not all going to be like that. I still want my creature comforts, and they might be a little higher than others. I mean, but then at the same point, it is okay. Now that I have that taken care of, what can I do?
Right. Melinda Gates wrote a book, and I meant to look it up before I got on here. I forgot the title. But she has helped so many people in Africa. And she said, as soon as women and girls are released from that daily need to get water that takes most of the day or cook the food, that they immediately want more education. They immediately start helping others. And then they also start small businesses.
Right.
There's this huge untapped potential in women that is just, it's coming out now. I mean, I believe we're on a surge, a tidal wave.
Yeah. Well, and let's be honest. I think the pandemic has made us think about this even more.
Yes.
Partially because we look at it and we go, okay, here we have X. We have the vaccine, whether you want it or not. We have the vaccine. And in all of these other countries, which would love it, they don't have it. And not only do they not have it, they don't have the resources to actually disseminate it once, if they were to even get it. But yeah, it's been interesting there have been many ways through the years that I have watched things like this. I used to be part of an organization in Colorado where we gave microloans, like under $1,000.
Right.
And they had to be given to a woman who was starting a business in an underdeveloped country. And that $1,000 was probably about the equivalent of at least a $10,000 loan in the States, if not more.
Yeah.
And it was incredible to see what they did with it. You know, and you know, and it really was just one of those things. It was like, oh my gosh. And you're right. You know, they immediately start thinking about other things like education, you know, and things that we take for granted. I mean, you know, clean water. I mean, that's one of those things that we all go, really? No.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a big thing.
Mhm.
So you just reminded me of a quote that I heard, and I can't cite the source, but men accomplish,
Mhm.
women become.
Mm-hmm.
And that to me kind of summarizes the differences.
Right.
Men view and value themselves by their outward accomplishments, whether it's in their bank account or the
Right.
company they built or,
Mhm.
you know, whatever it is, it's more outward, which
Mhm.
is fine. I'm
Mhm.
not criticizing.
Right. Oh yeah.
And I always love to say masculine energy is like a mountain.
Mhm.
Men say, I'm going to reach that summit. And then they do what they need to do, execute,
And they get
strategize
to the
climb
summit.
up,
Mhm.
climb up that mountain and they get to the summit. But what do they do at the top of the summit?
They plant their
Oh.
flag.
Plant their flag, but there's another summit over
Right.
there. I
Must
want
go
that
over
one.
there. Mhm.
Yeah. And that's their outward energy creating and accomplishing, which is wonderful.
Mhm.
But when women fall into that and forget their
Mhm.
feminine
Mhm.
becoming energy,
Mhm.
that's when you kind of lose a piece of yourself. And that's what I lived through
Mhm.
and have now come back around and have balanced the two.
Mhm.
If you think of female energy, feminine energy, it's more like water.
Mhm.
It flows, it's fluid.
Mhm.
It may not, it's not linear
Mhm.
at all.
Right. It wanders.
And that's probably what drives men crazy because they're like, well, what are you talking about? And to women, it's so clear, but to a man who wants something perhaps more linear and connected, it just doesn't work. So what does that do with money? Just to bring it back to money. Women tend to, if something doesn't go right or as expected, you want to know what men do with that?
They blame it on somebody else.
Exactly. Exactly. And women turn it inward.
Right. What did I do wrong?
I didn't do this right. I'm not smart enough. I didn't check this out. I messed up. And so when you do that with money decisions, it just puts the woman into a tighter and smaller box because you don't trust yourself.
Right. Because we're waiting to make our next mistake, or we don't want to make our next mistake.
We don't. We get frozen. Or we're waiting for outside validation. And I'm here to tell you right now, you don't need outside validation to be wealthy.
Right. You know, and we do the same thing with successes. You know, if something is successful, the guy goes, yeah, pat myself on the back. And women go, and I fall victim to this. Well, I shouldn't say victim. I do this all the time. I'm like, oh, it was because of great teamwork, you know, and what we need to do is like we were saying, combine those two. You know, I was a great leader leading a great team.
Exactly. And that's another aspect. Thank you for bringing that up. Women are more collaborative and relationship oriented. And so in the corporate world, I'm sure people have experienced that when they're having women on the team or they're put in charge of a team of women, there's more collaboration and support. Of course, it can go negative as well if one or more of the women are competitive.
Right. Oh yeah. And let's be honest, we can be, you know, there's a reason why, you know, you have cat fights and things like that.
Right. So male energy is more competitive. And it's, you know, I want to be better than you. You know, it's climbing that mountain faster. And so men can learn a lot from women and women can learn a lot from men, but there's a balance point.
Right. Right. You know, and to me, it always, and this is partially just because I love sports. It always comes back to a sports analogy for me. You know, men are, you know, they're in it to win it. They're, you know, and now they might say teamwork. I mean, you know, because they know, but typically you have an outstanding player on whatever sport it is, if there's more than two people, right? You know, and then if they lose, They're like, yeah, yeah. And they whack each other on the back and they all go have a beer. Women are, they might do all those same things. But of course, if they lose, oh, do we hold grudges? And 20 years later, we're like, you screwed that up. And, and I think that is one of the problems that we have too. A guy goes, yeah, whatever. Don't do that again. And the women, think on it and they fester and they remember it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. Unfortunately, that is a downside.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I wanted to just explain very quickly the concept of wealth.
Right. What is the difference between the two?
Mm-hmm. Right. Wealth. A lot of people don't know this. And I was surprised to find this out. Mm-hmm. The word wealth comes from an Old English word.
Ah.
Yeah. And there's two different spellings of it. It's wheel, W-E-A-L, or W-E-L-E.
Mm.
And those two words in Old English don't mean money in the bank account.
Mm-hmm.
It has a much broader meaning.
Right.
And it means well-being.
Mm.
So when you look at wealth as well-being, it encompasses your mental capacity, your mental aspects, your physical, your emotional, and your spiritual. And so women are more, I believe, in my work, I've seen this, once they see that wealth is a broader concept than just how much money they're making or how much they've accumulated, it's like this burden is lifted because they no longer have to conform to that standard set by men.
Right.
The well-being concept fits in with feminine energy and who we're becoming. So if you look at those four areas, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, and kind of just sit with it and say, what is it that I need in each area? That's a much better come from than, oh, I need to get, this certification or that thing done so I can make more money. Because at the end of the day, the doingness is not going to give you the beingness.
Right.
And that's one other concept that I wanted to kind of share that I've realized since I've started this work. The world today, we are bombarded with consumerism, with buy this and it's going to change you into that. Do this and you're going to become.
We're about to go into the holiday season. So all of the commercials, especially geared towards children, are going to be.
Oh, it's just, So it's kind of gotten out of hand, as everyone can imagine. But what that consumerism does, we start to think that's the solution. That's what we need. That's when I'm going to be happy. And it's a trick of the ego. It really is.
Right.
Because the ego wants you to continually be striving for something. The ego, when you are, and I'm a mindfulness and meditation teacher, when you become present, your ego disappears.
Right.
And so the ego's, I got to do this, got to do that,
got to beat them, got to beat them, got to beat them.
Exactly. And it's a drumbeat. And unfortunately, we live in a very consumer-oriented society that keeps beating that drum.
Right.
And what happens over time, if you don't step back, I call it spiritual amnesia. You forget who you really are.
Right.
Yeah, you do. And you think it's all this outward stuff. And then when you get the outward stuff, the house, the car, the promotion, the spouse, whatever, and you say, oh, that didn't do it.
Right. Yeah. And so then you're striving for the next step.
Exactly. So I call that formula the world's creation formula. You do first, then you have, and then you'll be happy. Do, have, be. And so what I realized is I want to be first. And then from that, I'll use that to formulate my next steps. And then I'll have whatever I have.
Right.
And once I switched that to focus on being and then doing and then having, be, do, have, it's transformational.
Right. And that half part still could be having a lot of whatever it is. But you have it for a different reason.
Right. Because when you're using the world's formula of do, have, be, that's when the ego really messes you up.
And that be keeps moving. I mean, that's the hard part.
Right. Because you're not coming, you can be abundant right now. I don't care what your circumstances are. And I could take us through a quick meditation on that
Mhm.
if you want, but it's an internal connection and energetic
Mhm.
being.
Right.
You can be prosperous right
Mhm.
now. You can be happy right now.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter on the external, it's who
Mhm.
you are internally.
Right. Right. And that is hard, when we're caring for family, when we're thinking, oh my gosh, have I made enough for retirement? I mean, all of those various things. And everybody has those voices that are going in their heads, and I don't care if you're 18 or if you're 80, male or female, those voices are always there. It's just different levels. And, how noisy are they, or how helpful are they?
Well, and yes, thank you. That's very important. And those voices or your thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
thoughts don't have any power unless you attach to them.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And thoughts are energy. So just
Mhm.
think about that. If you're thinking, oh my gosh, I am so stupid, I'm ignorant, I haven't made anything, I'm 40 years old, what's the matter with me? What's that going to produce? You're sending that energy out. But if you can reach a point where you started a meditation practice, where you have learned to be more mindful during the day and watch what you think or change it, and absolutely don't speak it, because as soon as you speak it, you've given it power.
Right.
You can shift that whole thing, even though your external circumstances haven't changed.
Right.
But once you've made that shift to being something positive, something based on love, not fear, your external world changes.
Right. Right. And it is hard. We're not saying that you can just go, oh, let's do this today.
No.
Because we, like we were saying, we were brought up this way, and all of the outside forces. I get a kick out of watching TV sometimes, and watching even just the commercials for some shows. The housewives of wherever. Every one of those come out on. I'm like, ugh. There's so many things about that I think. First of all, I'm one of those people. Why would I want a house that has 13 bathrooms? Think of all the cleaning. Well, of course, the rational part of me says, okay, you hire that done, but at the same point, it's like, I'm sorry, why do you need a house with 13 bathrooms or, a bowling alley in it? Yeah, would that be fun? Sure. But I can just as easily trot down and rent the shoes and do all of those various things at my local place while I'm supporting a local business. But I look at those things and I think, how is it that, and it really does just baffle me that for some people but they are the ones that they want more. And again, I realize these are television programs and those cameras stop and they're probably totally different people. I really hope they are totally different people. But it's also, there are so many people that look at that and go, that's what I have to do and be.
And that's not the standard.
Right.
It looks like it's the standard. Everybody acts like it's the standard. You get to decide what money means to you.
Right. Right.
And money is neutral until you give it meaning.
Right. And power.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly. So that's how I help my clients shift their relationship with money. They learn their sacred money archetypes, which is a really interesting concept. I also call them money personalities.
Okay.
Like the word archetype. But archetype, all that means is a general collection of characteristics that people recognize. So who do you think of when you hear the word hero?
Oh, a police officer.
Okay. I mean, and then if you went down and described that person and why you thought they were a hero, that's an archetype. Who do you think of as a nurturer? You mentioned Mother Teresa.
Right.
That's an archetype. So archetype is just one of those words that has been around a long time and maybe gotten a little bit of a bashing. But money archetypes, it is true. There's 8 personalities, 8, and each one has a gift, has several gifts, challenges, and strengths. And so that's what I do with my clients is help them recognize what archetype they are. And then they start seeing, oh, that's why I do X, Y, Z, or that's why I didn't do that. And so bringing that awareness helps you separate from your behavior.
Mhm.
So if there's something that hasn't been helping you or
Mhm.
serving you, you can change it.
Mhm. Right. And this is a fascinating discussion because, we do go through all of this. We have all of that. And it's funny, we talk about that little voice. Well, that little voice is also telling us this isn't right. We're not being authentic to ourselves. When we're trying to be, the latest, greatest, have the latest, greatest, make the most money, that little voice is in there going, yeah, but, and we just, push that poor little voice down. And so it's interesting because I think we do realize, and let's be honest, I think for many men, they're also doing that same thing. They want to get off of that hamster wheel, that gerbil wheel, the whatever it is, and enjoy life.
Right. And I'm sure you've seen the news reports that, since the pandemic upended everything,
Mm-hmm.
more people are leaving their jobs,
right?
Because they realized that's not
Mm-hmm.
who they wanted to
right.
be anymore. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, it's caused this
Mm-hmm.
labor shortage.
Mm-hmm.
But as people discover who
mm-hmm.
they are and what they want to
Mm-hmm.
accomplish in that energy, that's what helps raise everyone. If you're authentic and you're doing what you are meant to do, you're going to help the world.
Right. I think that's also why a lot of people don't want to go back into the office. They discovered that they can accomplish so much more when they're working from home. And there are reasons to go back into an office, at least in a hybrid perspective, because we do feed off of others' direct energy. I mean, it's really hard to feed off of somebody's energy when they're that little screen in the corner. And those quick conversations around the coffee machine sometimes are the greatest things in the world. But we also discover, hey, you know what? To not have a 2-hour commute, to, be able to work just for 6 hours, but because I'm focusing on it, I can just do 6 hours and not have to do 8. And you know what? I could stop and walk the dog in the middle, play with my child. I mean, all of those various things. And we've definitely seen that pushback where, employers who have said, you've got to come back, they're like, no, don't think so.
Well, and again, that's just a shift. It'll balance out. We're just still in that transition.
Right. Yeah. And I give it probably another year before we kind of settle down and figure out what it's going to be. And obviously that depends on what keeps happening with various things. But yeah, I think companies are really going to discover, we don't have to have everybody right under our thumb at all points in time. And if you had that employee, well, then you shouldn't have that employee. I was listening to the radio the other day and I get my news from the radio. I refuse to watch news on TV. And so of course I get my news in like 30-second snippets. But they were talking about the fact that, this, I'm going to call it a spyware program, but it's not, it's not like a malware thing. It's an employer spying on their employee. And I mean, it's their computer. They can do what they want with it. But counting keystrokes, checking to see what they're doing with it, all of those things. I'm sorry, if you're having to do that, then you shouldn't have them as an employee. It clearly means you don't trust them. Right. And so it doesn't matter if they're in the office and you can be peering over their shoulder, or if they're at their home, and so that was just baffling to me. But yeah, I think we are going to discover that. And I think we've seen this. People have gone, wow, I can spend more time with my family doing all of these other things, whatever it is. I mean, it might be that, they spend more time reading, whatever, when they're working from home and then having to go into an office every day.
Yeah. And again, I think it's a balance. I know for me, I enjoy being around people.
Right. Oh, I miss people. Oh,
I do. I totally miss people. I was involved in a lot of women's networking groups and we met, once a month, and I was the leader standing at the front of the room. That was so much fun. And all that just went away. So find something else to satisfy that. Because I do think we gain a lot by being physically present with other people.
Right. But that comes back to that discussion about wealth. Your wealth might have just improved because you can spend more time with your kids or your dog or your book or whatever it is.
But it comes back to your perspective.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm pining for the way things
Right.
used to be, I'm not going to feel wealthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're
If
going to
I'm-
feel, what's the opposite? Poor. I was thinking, what is the opposite of wealthy? Poor.
Well, or there's scarcity, there's
Mhm.
lack, I'm
Right.
missing something.
Mhm.
But you have to shift your energy, shift your
Mm-hmm.
focus, go inside and say, well, these are the things I
Mhm.
feel abundant about. This
Mhm.
is how I feel grateful.
Right.
This is who I am now. And I'll look for more opportunities to be that.
Right. Right. And to have those balancing thoughts, yes, I miss being with people, and I still have those opportunities here in Atlanta. They've gone back to in-person networking and have had for over a year, all of these various things. But I also look at it and go, I'm not sure it's worth risking my health for, because I am in one of those special categories. And so, it's like, okay, I'll just do all my networking online. So I'm shifting to how can I really expand that online networking? But at the same point, I'm getting ready to go to a big dog show, silly thing. But we're going to have over 200 people there. And I'm so excited to see everybody. I mean, it's just people. Now, I'm probably going to say no huggy, no touchy, no, all of those things. But at the same point, just to be back in a room with people again is so much fun.
Well, and Deb, you just brought up a great point. You recognize that maybe I don't need to go to the networking events like I used to, but you don't feel bad about that decision.
Yeah.
You checked in, said, what do I need? I need to protect me right now, my health. And so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to focus on another way to get the goal accomplished. So yeah. And it's that empowerment of yourself. If that's what's good for you, that's what's good for you.
Right.
And there's no judgment or criticism. It's just that's what's good for you.
Right. Now, here's the funny thing. Saved me a whole bunch of money by not doing that. Because when you attend those, now I still support those organizations. I'm still a member because I think that's very important to support your local business communities. But by not paying I belong to 4 groups, just by not paying those monthly meeting attendance of, $15 to $30.
Right.
That saved a lot of money. You figure, not the wear and tear on cars. Now, I did miss that tax deduction of all that mileage. But yeah, it's just, and I mean, there's so many things to balance it out with. I mean, my running joke is this way I don't have to put on shoes. And so we've saved that way too. Right. So yeah, it's just, what makes us tick. And what's going to give us at the end of the day, the feeling of today was a good day.
Exactly. And that's where I really appreciate learning mindfulness. And for people who don't know, mindfulness is the ability to be present in the moment and not judge it.
Right.
That's my definition of mindfulness.
Yeah.
And it took me a while to get to that. And so here's a hack or a trick that's really good. So if you think of how you feel when you're in fear, just watch the news every night and you will feel fear. That's all they
right. Doesn't matter what the story is.
Right. But feel it in your body. Think about where it lands in your body. For me, it's my gut. It's my stomach.
Right. The pit of your stomach.
Oh, and I know that. So when you notice you're in fear, your body is telling you something. And here's the important thing. Your mind typically habitually projects either into the future or it retreats into the past.
Right. Yeah.
And
this happened to me.
Yeah. And so your body, is always in the present. So mindfulness to me is also bringing that mind presence into your body presence. And when you can do that and you recognize that, I was just thinking fearful thoughts, then you can there's various breathing techniques to move those chemicals through your body. Because your body being in the present moment is always going to look for flight or fight. Or be at peace.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking fearful thoughts, guess what that's going to do to your body? You're going to trigger cortisol. You're going to trigger adrenaline. that whole cascade of
Mhm.
physical reactions.
Mhm.
And so use your body almost like a divining rod
Mhm.
to know when you're in fear
Mhm.
or love.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And things just as simple as deep breathing and things like that can help. It was funny, several months ago, actually, I guess, yeah, well, it would have been pre-pandemic. I have treatments for cancer, and I have to go in every 21 days. And so I had these two ladies on either side of me. And one of them was supporting one political candidate and the other one was supporting the other political candidate. And man, they were bickering. And I'm in the middle going, and before anybody can leave, they take your blood pressure. They need to make sure that, that you're okay to get up and walk around. And so they took my blood pressure and it was high. I mean, it was high. It was just because of all of that nging that was going on around me. And so I said, give me a minute. And so I closed my eyes. And by then they'd stopped. And so that helped. But I closed my eyes and I just focused on breathing deeply, not thinking about those two ladies bickering. And, took me 5 minutes and I brought my blood pressure down to normal. But it was that mindfulness. It was okay, let's get back to here and think about what I can do here. And it really was just deep breathing. And it was so funny because the nurse was like, wow, like you just are now learning this.
Well, I congratulate you on your awareness, and I would have changed seats.
That's really complicated,
I know.
but yeah, it's
I
just, and it was interesting because, obviously the political, you just got way out of hand in a lot of things, but, but there were several times I just wanted to say, ladies, shut up. But I didn't. I mean, and I'm sure it really was like 2 minutes worth of arguing, and it seemed much longer, but it was just very, but yeah, I mean, it's like you said, it's that mindfulness. It's the bringing us back, the toning everything out and really thinking, okay, right now is what I need to be thinking about, not worrying about, but thinking about.
Exactly. That's a great story. I love it.
It's interesting what we can do. I've had a couple people on the program who have been who are hypnotherapists, and and just all of those things, and obviously several people talking about meditation and things, and we know how powerful our minds are, but we, like you were saying, we get that feeling in the pit of our stomach and we let that just run amok with us.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people are doing that right now. So I hope whoever's listening to this feels calmer, feels more in control. And just look online for mindfulness breathing techniques. There's so much information on it.
Right.
A quick one that I use is called 16 seconds. You breathe in for 4 seconds. You hold it for 4. You exhale slowly for 4. And hold it for 4. And if you do 3 to 5 rounds of that, it takes you out of fear. It does. Your breath is the connection between your mind and your heart. And it helps calm your body, because we feel fear. So, it must be true. It's in my body. I know it.
Yeah. We're that deer in headlights.
Yeah. And it's just the hormones and your physical reaction to a perceived threat. And we don't have saber-toothed tigers running after us anymore. They're all in our mind. So just think about that. Your thoughts are creating your fear. So learn to change your thoughts, recognize them, bring yourself back to center, and then say, well, what can I do right now? What is it that's important right now? Or whatever the question is that brings you back.
Right. Yeah, because just taking that pause is enough to, like you said, calm us down. And we're not thinking, oh my gosh. And even and I think part of it is, if you're doing those breathing exercises, you're focusing on counting. And when you're focusing on counting, you're not doing something else. And so that kind of puts us at ease also.
Yes.
So oh my gosh, Kathryn, this has been just absolutely fascinating. We could go on and on and on. And so we just have to have you on again, because this would be a great discussion to continue. But tell us, okay, first of all, hold up the book. Let us see the book again.
Yeah.
And so again, the book is called The Money Tree: Transform Scarcity Thinking to Empowered Wealth Consciousness. And it can be found on Amazon, of course. But tell us more about how people contact you and the services that you provide.
Right. Well, first of all, go buy the book.
It's a great book. I read it. It's good.
It's a fun story, and
it is a parable. I like parables. We learn from parables.
We do. There's a reason why Jesus taught in parables. We're wired for that. Our brains are wired to remember things in context and stories. So that's what I try to do. I've written several other books, but I have to say I had so much fun writing The Money Tree.
I bet.
It was during the pandemic. I was a little depressed. Everything just stopped. Everything was so uncertain.
Right. And us little social butterflies were not doing well.
No. And after about 2 weeks of that, I'm like, I have to do something. So every morning I just started writing this story. And it will show you money in a totally different way. You'll see money from a totally different viewpoint. And hopefully that viewpoint carries through when you put the book down and go back to life. So people can find me at empoweredway.com. That's my main website, but I'm also on, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. I think that's it.
I know you can only be in so many places.
I know. But what I'm really excited about right now, I have been writing a long article every day or almost every day. And it's published on Medium. So if you go to medium.com, you can read some of my articles, but there's also a little membership you can buy. It's $50 a year. But there are so many fantastic writers on that platform.
I've never heard of that. Very interesting.
Yeah, medium.com. So anyway.
Very cool. I love it. I love it. Well, we didn't really talk about the book, but the book is great. It had, like you said, it's a story that, we can learn from, that we can all relate to. That was the thing, is we all go, oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, I like to say, Deb, it's like having your own spiritual money tree.
Right. And of course I loved that it was from a Celtic symbol and all of those things. That always I love. But yeah, we don't want to give too much away, and and because we want people to read the book. But it's a quick read, folks. This isn't something that's going to be you're reading for 6 or 7 hours or more. It's a quick read, because it really is. It's a story that's just a little story that you go, okay.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. And just know, when you buy the book, I created an online course that's a companion to it. And you'll get the code to take the course for free once you buy the book.
Okay. Very
cool.
So
that's just my way of saying thank you.
I love it. I love it. Well, and for anyone, if you are having these thoughts of, when it comes to money, when it comes to wealth, it's great. And like I said at the very, very start, who isn't, and again, I don't care if you're 18 or 80, you're thinking, oh my gosh, about the point where you go to pay bills, or, all of those things, you're thinking, and so, it's great to have a resource like Kathryn to be able to work through those thoughts and calm yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, my mission is to raise this wealth consciousness. So you heal your money wounds. You move past those stories that you've carried with you forever, and you step into your abundance, because you are abundant right now.
Right. Yeah. It doesn't matter where you are, in what stage of your life you are.
If you're breathing, if you're here on this planet, you are abundant.
Right. I love it. Well, do you have any that was a great final thought, but do you have any other final thoughts you want to leave us with?
Just thank you so much, Deb. You're a wonderful conversationalist. I've really enjoyed this. And I just hope you got some nugget from this conversation, because we kind of went from one to the other, but the underlying theme of it all is that you are worthy. You are meant to be here, and you have gifts to share.
I love it. I love it. Well, I have been having a delightful conversation with Kathryn Eriksen. I am Deb Creer, and until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.